Hi guys, a short video today. I'm assembling the pair of 3 phono preamplifier, and I've seen people on the internet on their way Audiocom that are struggling with SMD, with soldering them. They are scared to do it, they don't know how to start, so I decided to make this quick video just to give you guys some tips. So the things that you need is flux. Flux is your friend. Don't skimp on it. Use a ton of flux, it's okay, it's cheap. Also, get a really thin solder. This one I think is like 0.2, 0.3 millimeters. And also get some tweezers, and you're good to go. Besides that, just get your parts and some sort of PCB cleaner, but even if you're doing a through hole, you should have one. So, nothing really complicated. Also, a nice thin solder tip is recommended. It's gonna make your life way easier. Oh, it's dirty. I'm gonna clean it up. That's better. Okay, so let's start. So as you can see, I have a capacitor here. It's 1 microfarad, I believe it's 0805, so it's still a manageable package. As you can see, I prepare SMD components one by one, especially small ones like those capacitors, because it's just so easy to lose them. Don't ask me how I know. And I have like the perfect amount of them, 8, and I'm needing 8. So be careful, or you have to order them separately again. So you don't want to do that. Let's start with a flux. Just spread flux on parts. It may seem like a lot. I'm just gonna drop a ton of it, just to prove a point. It's all fine. Now, get some solder. Get your soldering iron. It looks super messy, but that's because I have a camera with a tripod between my legs. So if I can do it with a camera on my balls, you can do it at your desk. Don't worry about it. Just put a little bit on one of the pads. When it's prepared, take your tweezers, take the capacitor and melt the solder and put the capacitor in place. Boom. Now we need to solder the other side. So, like this. Make sure the solder is melted, is even, and it's shiny. If you hit those 3 things, you know the connection is okay. And as you can see, there's a ton of flux. You don't need to use that much, but I'd rather you use too much flux than too little. So don't be afraid to drown the PCB in flux. It's fine, you will just wash it off. So I have applied the flux, just a nice smear of flux. Yes, this is my measurement unit, a smear. So now I'm going to put some solder on the pad, like this, just a tiny bit. Grab the component. Sometimes it's easier to just rotate PCB. Makes my life easier. I'm really struggling with those cables, I'm telling you. So, just And now, while one side is connected, I'll just push gently with my tweezers and make sure the part is flat. And now the other side. It's really that simple. Just some basic manual labor and you're golden. I hope you can see it now more clearly. I have washed off the flags, and it's very good to do it pretty often when you're a beginner to see how you are doing. And I can see that over here I would like a bit more of solder. So I'm gonna just add a little bit, and with all the flags on the PCB I wouldn't have seen that. Usually when you're experienced, I just wash the PCB once after all of the components are mounted, but remember that not every component can be washed. For example, the dip switch that selects the cartridge loading, you shouldn't use liquids on it because they can get inside. Same thing with unsealed relays, with potentiometers. Just don't wash those things. But semiconductors, capacitors, resistors, like, yeah, go to town. You can wash them with anything. I generally wash with a cleaner, but then I also use tap water in the middle of washing, and then I use the PCB cleaner again. So I kind of save a little bit of cleaner. It's kind of expensive, right? Okay, so now we have prepared soldering of the transistors. As you can see, I already soldered two. So to be fair, nothing changes. You can see I used a ton of flux as usual, and I'm just gonna pre-orient the part. After a bit of working, things will be sticking to your tweezers as they are covered in a tiny bit of flux, but besides that, it's really the same thing, but the part is a bit smaller. Alright, come on. Yeah. So we start with a bit of a solder, maybe here and here. You can prepare like a couple of footprints at the same time. And now I'll just kinda rotate it so I can see better. Melt the solder, put the part. See how it is. It's not really straight, so we'll just do another approach. And you know, I'm half bent working around my camera. When you just sit comfortably at your desk, it's gonna be so easy. I'm telling you. You can do it. Just a tiny bit of solder here and there. Also remember that you don't need to put a lot of solder. Don't make a blob. Just a bit of solder, that's the trick. And now the other part. So once again, melt, position the part correct. See how it looks. It looks pretty good. And solder the rest. So after you have soldered the transistors, take your time, clean the PCB, inspect the connections, see how it went. And after that, you are good to go to solder the last part, and it's gonna be so much easier now. Alright, so this is the last part, and I think it's probably the easiest one. So I'm gonna use the XLR driver because I will be using swappable op-amps here in DIP socket. So I'm going to show you how to solder op-amps and SO8 components easily. And surprise, surprise, nothing changes. So just take some flux, spread it on the pads. Beautiful. Grab your soldering iron. In one of the pads. Which one? The one that's gonna make it the easiest for you to hold and manage the part. And as you can see, there's a mark here, a dot, and there's a dot here. So we need to line them up, not by flipping the thing. Oh yeah, now it's covered in flux and crap. I think it should be like this. Let me check off camera quick. Alright. It should go like this. So we basically do the same thing. Line it up. But the solder, make sure it's aligned. Push it down nicely. And basically that's the hard work. Now you just as you can see, stuff happens. And what do we do when stuff happens? Use enough flux to make the problem disappear. I have plenty, so I didn't need to add any. A wise thing to do is to start soldering on the other side of the IC, so you don't melt the one connection that is holding it in place, which is something I should do, and the consequence of not doing it you have already saw. And that's really it. I kinda used too much solder on those joints, especially on the other side, but I'm gonna blame it on the working around the camera, and I'm gonna show you a not properly, but a better job on the other PCB. Gracias. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a side look, less detail, but this time I can use a proper PCB holder, and I'm going to solder the rest of the components. I'm probably gonna time-lapse this, so it doesn't take like forever to watch. So, YouTube magic. One last thing I didn't show you in the beginning. Get yourself some soldering wick. It's a very fine mesh of copper wires, and what can it do for you? It will remove the excess of solder. So let's say I made a mistake, so I'm gonna just use extra flux. Remember, no such thing as too much flux. And I'll use the flux with the solder wick to suck all of the solder from the connection, like this. I'm heating up the wick and it sucks all the solder. This is now completely clean. No, maybe not completely, but it's pretty much clean. So now I can add some extra fresh solder like this, and the connection is perfect. So solder wick is your friend. And now it's done. The PCB is cleaned. Maybe it's a bit here and there, but generally it's clean. We can inspect the board. All looks fine. I think it's a pretty decent job, and that's something you can do at your home easily. Just be patient, use my tips, use the right tools, and you're gonna be fine. I think I even like soldering SMD more nowadays than through-hole. Is just so fast and so easy. So don't be scared. Get this project. It's a great project by Wayne. It has a great community behind it. Even if you're a beginner, we'll make sure your project runs and that you're happy. All right? I'll see you in the next one.